Hey, Jason Small here with United Country Land Pros with Brian Atkins on the We Know Dirt podcast. Today we're talking about food plots. So we've got all the crops in. It's June 11th, and the crops are all in here in the area. There's most of the farmers have their stuff in. We had a good spring. It wasn't too wet. We did have some moisture, but pretty good growing season. It's getting dry now. We're a little worried about that, but I know you and Tyler do a lot of food plots, custom food plots, and it's something we kind of run in concert with the real estate business that we're in, and works out well because a lot of our buyers we sell farms to are non-residents, and they want food, they want grain, especially early, and you guys have kind of worked that into a pretty good little business and taking care of that. But so just talk a little bit about, I mean, corn and soybeans, early. You and Tyler both seem to be a bigger fans of corn. If you can get it in, and part of that's just because the deer eat up so much of the beans. I mean, is that kind of
that is so tough with these small 2, 3, 4 acre plots, and unless you're going to put a hot wire fence, and even now the hot wire fences ain't just bulletproof, even
right.
when you do a double fence, and they just eat them up so hard. Now, like late season, I'd 2 to 1 rather have soybeans than corn.
Right.
But it's tough in these smaller plots. But the corn we like to use for structure a lot of the times. It's not only food, it's for structure, and so a lot
screening.
of screening, and a lot of our guys and our personal stuff, we can, plant a 2.5, 3 acre patch of corn, put up a tower stand, and we can come in there in October, mow down, funnel the deer the way we want them, get them up there within bow range and all, and so it works really good for us, and a lot of our clients like it, but this year it was tough because we went through a wet spell, especially farther west than the office here.
Food plot time. It's too muddy, but we're trying.
And so it was literally, you get to work one day, and then you'd be out for the next 5 or 6.
Right.
Work one day, but now it's starting to turn off dry. But we finally got all the corn, beans, everything done. And matter of fact, we got to go tomorrow and spray our last bit of corn and beans that we put in. And everything's up looking pretty good. The first stuff that we planted was some of the worst because we got a 9-inch rain on it there. They come in about 5 hours, but it's still good, but not perfect. But
right.
But now we're getting ready to get geared up and start looking forward to doing green plots.
So kind of back up and talk about number one. Not, and there may be established food plots, but food plot selection, like selecting the right spot. Say you've got, CRP or say it was CRP, it's out now, selecting the right spot. You're trying to drag these deer out. Number one, a guy's getting a bad habit of putting so much food on a farm. I've seen it where they've got 100 acre food and they've got 10 food plots on there. Where are you going to go kill your deer at?
That's not our style.
So your biggest goal is to make destination food plots, kill plots, somewhere to kill go out, bring the deer out in the food plot, have the right stand set up to be able to, you have to really find the tree first or find the setup first.
We always, myself and Tyler, we always talk about when a lot of our clients, we actually meet them on their farm. They'll come out or be here, and we'll meet them and we'll walk it. And we always tell them when they say, okay, well, let's put a food plot right here. Well, you got to find your tree and then put the food plot to the tree.
And access. There's a lot of stuff goes into it.
And there's a lot that goes into it. Now, it does make it easier if you're going to use like some type of tower stand. Mm-hmm. It does, because then we can set the tower stand and build the food plot around it.
Right.
But there's a lot that goes into it. And this year, but anyways, we put in a lot more food plots this year that had never been established before. And like I said, overall, it was pretty good. We jumped all the way from Lynn County all the way to Van Buren County and everywhere in between.
Yeah. Yeah, and so when you want to establish a food plot that's in sod, it's either the CRP or hay ground or whatever else. We worked a couple different ways on that lease and stuff. I mean, we went in and worked it, tried to work it, and it was muddy and it wouldn't work, and we got by and got some rain, and I think it came up well. The corn did, but and then you no-tilled some of it, and, sprayed it and then no-tilled it, and that worked pretty good too. So really depends on the conditions, which I think a lot of times, the no-tilling it, burning it down, no-tilling it, and then working on, working it the next year and trying to incorporate some lime and some fertilizer and stuff like that is pretty important. Maybe year one it's not going to happen if you don't have the right conditions to be able to work the dirt and everything else and get it in a good seed bed. But no-tilling works pretty good. You get some rain and it works well if you get a good kill on the established sod. So,
but back to what you was talking about, how you see. You've been on farms and talked with guys that they want to put all this food and scatter it out here, there, everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
We've never particularly liked that style just because, most farms, I don't care if you've got a 25-acre farm or if you got a 400-acre farm, there's usually a couple distinct places that we always call kill places. And, to me, I've never wanted to sit here on 3 or 4 acres of food, have 3 or 4 acres 500 yards away. I don't want to sit here and give deer the chance to be over there.
Right.
And so we've always tried to encourage, hey, let's break the farm down. Let's look at it. And, hey, if it's not exactly right this year, we can make changes for next year.
Right.
But it seems to work good. We done a farm consultation a couple weeks ago on a new farm that a client had bought from us last year. And where we was thinking about putting the food just off of looking at the aerial, we got there, looked at everything, we totally changed up the whole mindset. Mm-hmm. And of course, we try to typically keep in mind north winds, west winds, the prevailing winds out here whenever we're looking at doing this, because the last thing you want is a bunch of deer coming out downwind of
and busting you.
So.
Yeah, it's figuring the bedding area out and knowing where they're going to come from and doing that kind of stuff, and then so that's the kind of the grain plots side. For the grains, the corn and beans, and I'm like you. I think late season beans are kind of where it's at. It's the corn. The way I always thought of it was corn's the candy and soybeans is the protein. Late, that's where the deer want to be. On those soybeans but. Can't overlook green plots either.
Oh, no. No.
Especially a good clover plot, is, I think, maybe one of the best things. And last year, I put turnips in last year, and like everybody's worst nightmare, putting in greens, turnips, radishes, that kind of thing. I put some buck oats in with it, and those things came up and looked beautiful. They got a rain on it when I put them in. Everything got up about 4 or 5 inches, and it shut off and didn't rain for, I don't know, for 2 months, it seemed like, from August 1st to whatever, into September. And so I didn't get any turnips out of it, but those buck oats came. And I'm telling you, I sat several nights in that stand, and I watched every deer walk in there and feed on that tender buck oats and that clover. And there was a cornfield right behind me. They'd go right to that tender green stuff, in September, October, and November, and really hit that hard. So it's not something that should be overlooked. But really, we're not far out from it's, time to, what's the old saying? I can't think of it. July 25th, rain or shine. That's when you plant your green plots. And I think, turnips, radishes, there's some other stuff. Biologic makes a good mix of things. There's some rape and things like that. But turnips and radishes are some of the biggest ones. There's some kale and, a mix of whatever you want to use there. And it's about getting the tonnage, right? You want to get the most amount of tonnage you can to keep the food there as long as you possibly can. And if you did a good job, next spring your turnip food plot's going to look like somebody dissed it, because they're going to, once it frosts, it's going to come in. They're going to nip the tops, and then late season, after everything else is gone, they come back and dig the bulbs. And that's what you're shooting for. I think, and I don't know, you can tell me what you think. I think the number one mistake people make, and I've made it, and I'm sure you've made it, with green plots, turnips and radishes especially, is putting too much on. You put too much, and the seeding rates are really small. It's like 3 to 4 pounds per acre on that seed, which I forget how many million seeds per pound are in turnips and radishes, and you can find a chart somewhere and make sure. But people put it in too thick.
They do.
And if you can mix it with some fertilizer and spread it, it depends on what you've got to use, but it will use some fertilizer, some P&K.
We're here on the lease here today, just north of my house. And we're putting in a little bit of screen in here around this food plot. We got a pretty good clover food plot established here. We got some wheat in there. When I put it in, I put some wheat with it. But there's our stand right there. And I don't know, I suppose this is probably real close to an acre, maybe a little over acre and a half. But what we're trying to do here is we're actually putting some kanaf in for screen. Brian grows it up or out in North Carolina. They use it for filtration for sewer systems and things like that. But it gets super tall and it's pretty thick. We come in here and just disc around the outside, one swath wide. But what we're trying to do is get it where, you know, a deer can't come in here and check this plot just by standing here in the brush. You know, he's gonna have to come out to check it. And that's it. That's the whole idea. I need to mow the clover, but I got the boss lady helping me today. She's driving it in. I don't have a harrow, so we're just gonna kind of track it in. It's pretty wet where we dissed it, but hopefully this makes this food plot where they've got to come out and check it. I killed a 162 or 3-inch deer last year in here, and pretty nice deer. And there's a couple that were 4-year-olds last year. Should have a couple in here this year that ought to be scaring 170. But anyway, this is one of them. We're gonna have beans on the backside. Farmer's got some beans going in there, and I'll probably leave a few of those. But anyway, that's what we're doing May 18th. Hopefully it pays off.
I tell you what, most of our stuff, and you know, we've got spreaders for the tractor and all, but most of our stuff, we still like to hand seed it.
Yeah.
That's out with the turnips and radishes and all. We like to hand seed it. Walk across it, hand seed it, and that is the number one issue. People, you always think like more seed equals more, but when it comes to turnips and radishes and all, that ain't how it
They'll
works
come up
out.
like that, like a carpet of grass, and then they won't do anything at
Have
all.
little small turnips, small radishes. But again, it goes back. So we've got one farm that we literally designed a food plot for this owner for one deer. There's one deer, and it's a place on the farm that me personally, I'd never think to put a food plot over there. Like it's not something when you look at the aerial, like I would never go to put a food plot here. But he was having this one big deer that this is where he lived. That's where he was at. And he had him after the season and all. So he feels like he made it unless he could have got hit by a car or something could have happened between now and then. But we have designed this food plot just for this one deer. We put in 4.5 acres of corn. It's 2 different ridges, a strip that connects the 2 ridges. We got corn coming up to the strip, blind right here, pond, and then greens. We're going to be putting in greens to connect them. And so like, but we're probably going to put in more radishes because he's wanting to set up for early season.
Right.
So, you know, like typically the radishes seems like that they hit them a little better early season. Turnips and all, once it starts getting cold and it turns that forage to sugar is what I call it, they start really getting on it. But, you know, last year, like you were saying, it was so dry.
Yeah.
So dry. We just kept putting it off. And finally we had some farms that I told the clients, I said, look, it's not going to grow. Like we're getting here to the middle of August and no rain in the forecast. Like it's not going to grow. Our only chance is to put it in, mix some wheat and rye with it because that wheat and rye seed seems like it'll lay there longer. And, you know, and wheat and rye, it's really good stuff for late season.
Yeah.
It really is. But you
just don't get the tonnage. You know, you get the
you don't
tonnage
get the
out
tonnage,
of it.
yep.
You know, that's the.
And so we're getting geared up. We like to start just typically, depending on the weather, about the 15th of July. Start working some stuff up, and you know, because it seems like that a little bit earlier. It seems like it always does a little better for us. I don't know why.
Right.
But
And the other mistake people I think make is, you know, a lot of that small seed, that stuff, people
put
want
too
to plow
deep.
it under, and it doesn't. I mean, you basically if you work up a seed, especially if you use a tiller, if you till something, skid loader or tractor, and you can put that seed on there and then just take a cold packer and roll it in, that's about as good as anything you can do. Maybe a harrow just a little bit, but man, less than a 1/4 inch of soil seed contact, and that seems like it's kind of the ticket.
even if you knew 100% that it was fixing to rain,
Oh yeah,
I'd soon just sling it out there and let the rain, knock it in. But
we've done a bunch of turnips into soybeans, and it works out.
Yeah.
It works out really well. You've got the shade, it holds the moisture to the ground. They grow really good, and once the beans start to lose the leaves, the turnips really come on. So that's another, that's something else people can do to add tonnage. If they've got, because the deer are going to nip your beans, and they're going to get quite a few of the beans, and maybe that's your added to hold that deer there longer, more food, maybe find your sheds late or whatever. But, I think that's a good idea too. So,
but no, we're getting ready to get geared up and start on green plots, and hopefully we'll keep catching a few showers, because I really don't want to see any more EHD.
Oh yeah, which wet springs and dry late summers, which we didn't have a wet spring, in my opinion. It wasn't a wet spring.
No.
I mean, we're June 11th, and I think north of Missouri, I think every single farmer's done planting by now. So we had some pretty good times, but EHD, it's a killer when that hits, and there's nothing you can do about it. We say that there is some stuff you can try to mitigate. I know there's some products out there that they're saying is mitigating some of the EHD. I know that some guys are using some garlic. Chris and Kurt, they're talking about putting some garlic and some mineral and doing some things like that. I know Bomar's putting fly traps out and trying to catch keep some of that stuff off of them. I've even heard of, I don't know if it's legal or not, so I'm gonna say it out loud, but guys putting ivermectin on some of their mineral sites and things like that to try to get.
Well, we know it's not legal in the CWD counties where you can't put mineral
Right.
food anyways, but but yeah, there is some things you can do, but it's hard to fight Mother Nature.
That's it. It's tough whenever you got a deer. I had that deer last year, 5-year-old deer, wasn't going to score a bunch. He's the one that I found that I lost him. I think August 8th was my last picture, and I found him late there, and he wasn't, 200 yards from my house, dead there, and he was a 5.5-year-old deer. That's just a killer when that happens, and we found several here in the area this last year. It wasn't really that widespread. I know it went up through Davis County. It got hit pretty hard. Troy area up in there, they got drilled pretty good. But it happens, and it sucks when it does, because it takes you back. I don't think we got it that bad, but it takes you back a few years. I mean, it's just a fact when you lose your.
It's typical too. It usually takes out your older class bucks.
Yeah,
that's what it typically takes out. Usually your younger ones can make it, but it takes out your older class deer.
It seems like we had a bad kill in 12 and I think 19, and last year lost a few in places in Iowa. I know they got really hit
Seems
hard.
like just as soon as you feel like you got built back, it's been hitting again.
That's it. And I kind of feel like, knock on wood, I feel like we're set for a really good season here. Yeah. The amount of good young deer we've got. I know we had some good 4-year-olds we passed last year. Some 3-year-olds that were nice that were coming on. I think we're set in Missouri. I know in northern Missouri anyway, to have probably one of the better years, as long as we can stay away from some EHD and something crazy happening. But I think we're set for a better year this year as far as killing, big mature deer. So,
yeah.
But anyway, so that's what we were talking about. I guess comment, on our YouTube channel here or Facebook. We'll post this on Facebook as well. What your favorite food plots are and things like that. We like to talk to people about that kind of stuff and about how to set them up and what to put in and that kind of thing. So it's all this stuff's all about helping each other and making it better. So check us out there. Anyway, we'll see you.